This toxic lifestyle literally fries the human central nervous system. The exact biological mechanism destroying neural pathways is actively suppressed. Mainstream fitness empires bury this clinical data every single day. The window to reverse this severe neurological damage is closing rapidly. Ignoring these next clinical minutes guarantees permanent biological system collapse. Elite human performance requires a naturally dominant, highly recovered brain. Extreme modern discipline destroys that exact vital biological hardware completely. Time is rapidly running out to fix this induced metabolic disaster. Modern gym culture worships forced, painful daily energy expenditure. Society falsely equates chronic physical suffering with elite, iron discipline. This is a dangerous, highly manufactured, and toxic biological illusion. The human brain manages daily metabolic energy with extreme precision. It requires natural, uninterrupted biological rhythms to function perfectly. Severe daily training violently disrupts this essential neurological energy supply. When the physical body is exhausted, it demands parasympathetic recovery. The brain naturally slows down to repair torn muscle tissue. It shifts into a necessary, restorative, and quiet biological state. Forcing the body to train daily aggressively overrides this natural healing. The brain is violently hijacked by synthetic, unregulated psychological pressure. Fluid intelligence drops significantly under this artificial physical assault. Short-term memory fragments completely inside a constantly overstimulated neural network. Elite focus shatters into pieces under chronic sympathetic nervous system stress. The aesthetic physical peak becomes an absolute cognitive rock bottom. Elite fitness influencers secretly suffer from extreme, crushing mental exhaustion. They look physically invincible outside but decay rapidly on the inside. This is the dark neuroscience of the modern hustle mentality. Fitness models constantly hide their overwhelming, chronic daily brain fog. They cannot read complex books or execute deep, strategic work. Their neural pathways are actively burning out from severe overstimulation. The illusion of perfect discipline masks a terrifying biological reality. Forcing extreme physical performance while exhausted destroys the nervous system. The human body treats this extreme training as a lethal threat. Every biological system downgrades to basic, primitive survival protocols immediately. Cognitive expansion stops completely under this heavy physical burden. The individual becomes a biological zombie running on toxic adrenaline. They trade their cognitive supremacy for cheap, temporary internet validation. The biological tax for this vanity is severe, irreversible neurodegeneration. Our relentless training fries your adrenal glands. Extreme daily physical discipline is a mathematical biological disaster entirely. The human body was never designed for relentless daily physical trauma. Intense resistance training causes massive microtears in human muscle fibers. This process triggers an immediate, highly aggressive systemic inflammatory response. The brain detects this severe physical trauma almost instantly. The hypothalamus misinterprets this self-inflicted pain as a literal predator attack. It activates the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis to manage the biological crisis. The adrenal glands are forcefully commanded to pump toxic cortisol immediately. Cortisol is the primary human stress hormone designed for short-term survival. Pumping massive volumes of cortisol daily creates a highly toxic environment. The adrenal glands literally fry under this relentless daily biological demand. They become exhausted, leading directly to severe clinical adrenal fatigue. The human bloodstream becomes flooded with corrosive, inflammatory chemical markers. This toxic cortisol storm travels directly into the central nervous system. The blood-brain barrier slowly begins to weaken and physically degrade. Cortisol is highly neurotoxic when present in chronic elevated amounts. It violently attacks the hippocampus, the brain center responsible for memory. The hippocampus physically shrinks under the pressure of extreme daily discipline. Learning new, complex skills becomes a literal, physical, biological impossibility. Then forget basic vocabulary and struggle to articulate simple human concepts. They cannot maintain deep conversations because their attention span is shattered. The brain is entirely too busy managing the violent internal chemical storm. The individual falsely believes they're forging an unbreakable elite mindset. Biologically, they are aggressively inducing early-onset neurodegeneration and chronic fatigue. The human nervous system begins to literally short-circuit and fail entirely. Neural electrical processing slows down dramatically due to severe oxidative damage. Willpower cannot override millions of years of evolutionary survival programming. The panicked brain forces human attention toward immediate physical threats. It completely blocks the biological capacity for abstract, long-term strategic thought. The aesthetic obsession destroys the biological capacity to generate wealth. A fried prefrontal cortex cannot hold attention on complex financial data. The modern no pain, no gain routine engineers a weak mind. The individual feels productive simply because they lifted heavy weights. Meanwhile, their actual cognitive machinery is rusting and actively failing. The brain misinterprets the daily workout as a literal physical attack. Chronic sympathetic activation keeps the heart rate variability dangerously low. The body is trapped in a permanent fight-or-flight biological response. This is not elite discipline, it is self-inflicted structural brain damage. Biological cost of chronic sympathetic overdrive. Operating in a permanent sympathetic state guarantees severe biological consequences. The autonomic nervous system controls every subconscious human biological function. It is divided strictly into sympathetic stress and parasympathetic recovery modes. Elite physical and mental growth only occurs during deep parasympathetic rest. Modern hustle culture violently demonizes rest and parasympathetic recovery. They preach that taking a day off is a sign of weakness. This toxic ideology forces the body into chronic sympathetic overdrive permanently. The biological cost of this mindset is absolute systemic nervous failure. When the sympathetic nervous system is locked on, digestion stops entirely. The gut microbiome connected to the brain via the vagus nerve decays. Essential nutrients are not properly absorbed into the human bloodstream. The brain is literally starved of the vitamins required for cognitive function. Toxic metabolic waste freely enters the delicate neural networks daily. The human brain literally marinates in a highly toxic chemical soup. This causes severe, compounding oxidative stress deep within the brain. The microglia, the essential immune cells of the human brain, mutate. Under normal conditions, they quietly clean metabolic waste from delicate neurons. However, chronic physical stress forcefully alters the microglia's biological behavior. They become hyperactive, aggressive, and highly destructive immune agents entirely. Instead of cleaning the brain, they start attacking perfectly healthy neurons. This is severe neuroinflammation driven directly by the modern fitness industry. The individual believes they are outworking their competition in the gym. In reality, their immune system is actively destroying their own brain. Thoughts become incredibly sluggish and highly difficult to properly organize. Reaction times plummet to embarrassing, heavily delayed biological levels. Severe brain fog becomes a permanent, daily, inescapable biological reality. This is the unglamorous, terrifying biological cost of extreme physical discipline. Men destroy their natural longevity and their brain mass simultaneously. This lethal secret is heavily guarded by the billion-dollar fitness industry. They sell motivation while intentionally hiding the structural brain damage. The physical ideal marketed to young men is a neurological nightmare. The human body is not a machine to be endlessly abused. It is a highly sensitive biological organism demanding strict physiological equilibrium. When violently forced out of equilibrium, the brain pays the ultimate price. The blind pursuit of the perfect workout inevitably destroys the perfect mind. The central nervous system completely fries under this relentless daily pressure. Neural pathways literally burn out entirely from chronic, forced overstimulation. Extreme physical discipline rapidly mutates into severe, irreversible biological punishment. Why no pain, no gain destroys your dopamine? The human dopamine system is extremely fragile and easily destroyed permanently. Dopamine is the vital molecule of motivation, drive, and intense focus. It dictates human ambition and the capacity to execute hard work. Healthy dopamine release requires a baseline of biological safety and recovery. Chronic, extreme physical pain violently disrupts this delicate neurochemical balance. The no pain, no gain mentality completely hacks the dopamine reward system. Forcing the body through daily agony releases massive amounts of endorphins. Endorphins are endogenous opioids designed to mask severe physical trauma briefly. The brain becomes addicted to this violent, unnatural chemical painkiller response. The individual starts chasing the pain rather than the actual physical progress. This artificially decouples dopamine from actual, sustainable physical or mental achievement. Over time, the central nervous system detects this toxic overstimulation. Survive the daily chemical flood, the brain executes biological downregulation. It actively destroys its own dopamine receptors to reduce the noise. This is a terrifying, highly permanent biological defense mechanism entirely. The highly disciplined individual literally loses the capacity to feel joy. Dopamine receptors require abundant metabolic energy to synthesize and bind properly. Chronic sympathetic stress blocks this entire neurochemical process from happening naturally. The individual achieves their absolute dream physique but feels completely dead. They suffer from severe, clinically induced limbic anhedonia every single day. The pleasure and motivation centers of the brain physically shut down entirely. Natural motivation evaporates completely from their daily human experience. Basic daily discipline requires monumental, exhausting, and highly painful conscious effort. They become biologically dependent on the pain just to feel alive. Without the extreme workout, they cannot gather the energy to function. They achieve their fitness goals but become slaves to the gym. This is limbic depression engineered directly by the toxic hustle culture. The aesthetic goal becomes an inescapable, miserable, and highly toxic prison. The body looks ready for war, but the mind is completely dead. The fitness industry profits endlessly from this exact cycle of misery. Keeping men obsessed with physical pain keeps them cognitively incredibly weak. A cognitively weak man cannot challenge the financial or social status quo. Their brain simply refuses to run high-level, complex human software. They are trapped inside a chemically induced, low-level biological loop forever. They trade their long-term cognitive intelligence for a short-term muscle pump. The ultimate cost of fake discipline is the death of human motivation. The hidden link between overtraining and depression. Clinical depression is rarely discussed in elite gym and fitness circles. Millions of young men walk around completely unable to feel happiness. They stare at the mirror with thick, sluggish, and paralyzed minds. They falsely attribute this exhaustion to not working hard enough today. The actual biological truth is far darker and highly disturbing. Their limbic system is actively collapsing to survive the physical assault. Elite cognitive function relies entirely on a foundation of absolute biological safety. The brain must feel completely secure to perform deep, uninterrupted work. Daily physical trauma mathematically signals a severe, life-threatening famine environment. The brain misinterprets the massive muscle breakdown as severe physical danger. It locks the autonomic nervous system in sympathetic fight-or-flight mode permanently. The human operating system downgrades to its absolute most primitive biological level. Chronically overtrained man simply cannot outwork a fully recovered competitor. The natural calm brain processes complex data variables at extreme lightning speeds. The overstimulated, fried brain processes basic data through thick biological mud. This clearly explains the secret silent depression behind elite physical physiques. They possess zero biological energy for genuine joy, creativity, or extreme ambition. Extreme physical discipline is a direct path to modern intellectual poverty. The hippocampus, responsible for emotional regulation, shrinks rapidly under high cortisol. Processing complex emotions becomes a literal physical biological impossibility. Men become irritable, highly aggressive, and entirely isolated from their loved ones. They cannot maintain deep relationships because their emotional span is shattered. The brain is entirely too busy managing the violent, internal physical storm. Toxic inflammatory byproducts accumulate rapidly inside the skull every single day. The lymphatic system, responsible for cleaning the brain, completely shuts down. It only operates properly during deep, restorative, high-quality human delta sleep. Chronic overtraining violently destroys deep sleep architecture and delta wave production. The brain never fully cleans itself of the toxic metabolic waste. This guarantees chronic, compounding, and highly destructive daily clinical depression. Fitness influencer cannot compete in the modern intellectual arena whatsoever. Their brain is entirely too busy repairing torn muscles and managing cortisol. They are biologically locked out of the elite flow state entirely forever. The flow state absolutely requires a deeply relaxed, fully nourished parasympathetic nervous system. Extreme discipline guarantees a constant, highly stressful sympathetic biological overdrive. The individual sacrifices their entire mental health for a temporary physical aesthetic. True discipline is knowing exactly when to stop and biologically recover. How to optimize recovery for elite performance. Reclaiming absolute cognitive dominance requires completely abandoning the modern toxic illusion. The true global elite optimized solely for maximum neural horsepower, not suffering. The brain absolutely requires deep biological calm to function brilliantly and flawlessly. Returning to a natural, highly stable biological baseline is absolutely mandatory immediately. It stops the violent neural inflammation and microglial attacks instantly. The individual must violently reject the no pain, no gain toxic ideology. Chronic physical stimulation must be eliminated to reduce toxic daily cortisol spikes. The vagus nerve must be activated daily to enter deep parasympathetic recovery. This rapidly flushes toxic metabolic waste completely from the fragile neural pathways. Executive function returns rapidly once the artificial physical trauma finally ends. The prefrontal cortex physically expands back to its optimal, powerful, dominant size. Deep focus becomes entirely frictionless, automatic, highly sustainable, and incredibly sharp. Memory retention sharpens immediately to elite, highly competitive global standards. The modern human being must deliberately choose between physical suffering or cognitive supremacy. The highest global earners always prioritize their central nervous system above cheap aesthetics. True modern power is strictly mental, not merely physical, brutal, or muscular. Rebuilding the shattered dopamine baseline requires totally abandoning the extreme fitness cult. It requires treating the brain like an elite, highly protected biological sanctuary. Natural energy must be cultivated through deep sleep, proper nutrition, and active recovery. The brain will slowly upregulate its dopamine receptors over time through intelligent rest. The capacity for profound joy and relentless motivation will naturally return entirely. The dependence on chronic pain will be replaced by unshakable biological stamina. This clinical breakdown sets the required theoretical foundation for your biological recovery. However, theoretical knowledge without exact tactical execution guarantees absolute, mathematically certain failure. The exact step-by-step clinical resources required to rebuild your neural pathways exist. The mainstream fitness industry actively tries to suppress the specific recovery data. They are located directly in the description below this video right now. Go to the description immediately and access these elite optimization protocols. Applying these specific resources guarantees you will reclaim your lost cognitive dominance entirely. You will completely eliminate adrenal fatigue and completely bypass your competition. Subscribe to this channel immediately to join the absolute minority operating at peak biological performance. Stop trading your cognitive longevity for a fake, toxic daily hustle mentality. The window of opportunity to reverse this specific neural damage is closing fast. Reclaim your shattered nervous system today before the biological damage becomes permanent.